After watching TikTok for too long again, you see this viral newspaper editing trend. This looks amazing, I wanna make one myself, you think. So you go ahead, open After Effects and start editing, only to realize that you have no clue how to make it. Why is it so confusing? If only there was someone who could help me. Well, don't worry, because today I will show you step by step how to make this viral match cut edit of your favorite character so you can start going viral. And all we need to start is the sound, our clips, and of course After Effects. Let's go. Once we open After Effects, it will look like this, and the first thing we have to do is create the project with the right settings. So click on New Composition, and in here you will get this extra window in which we can pick our editing resolution, frame rate, and duration. And because in my case I want the square look for my edit, I'm gonna go for 1080 by 1080. But there's loads of different resolution sizes you can experiment with. For example, 1080 by 1920, 1170 by 1560, 1080 by 1450, and so much more. Which one you pick is up to you. Like I said, I want mine to look like a square, so I'm gonna keep it at 1080 by 1080. And very important, for the frame rate, we're gonna put 60 because that's gonna give us the smoothest look. Lastly, my duration for now I'm gonna put to 20 seconds, and then I'm gonna click onto OK. Once that's done, we will see our preview, timeline, and everything that we need to edit. But right now it's black because we haven't imported anything yet. The song you want to use for this edit is called Smesia 2, and scene packs of your character you can usually find on Discord or Instagram. I will leave you links to the ones I use in the description. And to get the sound plus clips instead of After Effects, I'm gonna open up the folder which they are in, select both of them, and then drag them into the project panel on the left side of the screen. To start, we're only gonna use the sound, so click onto the sound and drag it onto your timeline like this. And now grab your headphones because we will need to find all the beat drops. To make that easier, we can right click onto the sound layer, go to Keyframe Assistant, and then click on to convert audio into keyframes. Now there will be a second red layer. Click on that one, press U on your keyboard to bring up all of the keyframes, and then select the both channels slider right here. Click onto this box to open the graph editor, and now we will be met with this graph. If we zoom in a bit, you can see there's loads of different spikes, and every time there's a spike, we're gonna have a beat drop, which makes it way easier to find them. And so that we don't forget them, I'm gonna go to the first one, which you can see this big spike right here, and then I'm gonna go all the way to the right and click onto this marker symbol to mark it with number 1. Very important, always make sure you double check by listening to the audio. Once you verified that this is a beat drop, we're gonna go to the next one, which you can see is gonna be here, and we're gonna set another marker. This time it's gonna be called number 2. Once we get to the section where there's all these beat drops close to each other, I'm gonna zoom in a bit because here it's gonna be a bit different. What we wanna do here is first of all mark the first spike by setting a new marker, and then we're gonna go to where the next spike starts. You can see all of them look pretty much the same, all 4 of these, and I'm gonna set another marker at the beginning of the first one, and then when it ends right here, I'm gonna set another one. So basically what we wanna do is mark the duration of these spikes right here. So go ahead to the next spike right here, set a keyframe where it starts, then go to where it's over. You can see the spike starts going to the bottom again, and set the second keyframe. Once you've done this for these spikes, we're gonna go back to normal. That's only the case in this specific audio, and then we're gonna mark this beat drop right here, of course this one, and then here where our actual edit starts playing. From here we can just continue normally, go to the next beat drop, and then set a marker so that you can keep them in mind. Once we're done, our timeline should look something like this, and if you had some troubles finding the right beat drops, just pause the video and put the markers exactly where I put them. Then close the graph editor and delete this red layer, and now we can actually start with our edit. And making this specific editing style is going to be a bit different because we need this paper intro. And to find all of these text snippets, we're going to use Google. Just go ahead and search for the word that you want to use in your intro. Once that's done, we're going to click onto the news section right here. Here you will just get a list of news articles, and if you select one of them, you can just scroll down, search the right section, for example right here, and then take a screenshot by holding down your Windows, Shift, and S key. You can also use a template for this, but we're not goofy CapCut editors, so we're not going to do that. We want to do all of the editing ourselves. And I personally recommend getting at least 5 screenshots of different news articles. As you can see, I already prepared them, and now we can select all of them and drag them onto our timeline. If it looks like my timeline and they all have a different size, don't worry, we're going to fix that. Just make sure you go to the beginning. Then we're going to zoom in a bit and cut each of these layers to 2 frames total. So we're going to count 1, 2, and then cut all of them by pressing Ctrl, Shift, and D. Delete everything that comes past here, so all of the rest of the layer we're going to delete because we only want a short snippet. Now all we got to do is select the first layer, press S on our keyboard, and then make it bigger until we find the word that we want to use, which in this case is psychopath. Right here if you can't see it, and put it in the middle. So we want to make it very big and then move it towards the middle. You can see so that the word is actually visible. Then we can disable this layer and do it for the next one as well. Again, press S on your keyboard, scale it in until you find the word that you want to use. In my case, again, psychopath, and put it to the middle as well. You want to make sure that the words have approximately the same size. If you want to compare them, you can just enable that old layer again, and you can see I have to move this one a bit up and maybe make it a little bit bigger as well, like this. And now when we look at it, it lines up, so we can do the next layer as well. Again, press S on your keyboard, scale it up until it's big enough, and then move the word into the middle of the screen. Repeat this process with all 5 of your layers. Once that's done, we can enable all of the other layers again, select all of them, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and then click on Sequence Layers. Press onto OK. Now you can see that they all nicely line up, and when we play ahead, we already have this animation that we want. But right now it's a bit too short, so we're gonna have to duplicate these layers. So zoom out a little little bit. Then select all of the layers, press Ctrl and C and then Ctrl and V to paste them. And now we can just drag these ones while they're selected to fit with the end of the next one. And you can see we still have some space to fill until the first beat drop. So we're going to do the same thing again. Just press Ctrl and V, drag them until they are here. And then one last time, we're just going to duplicate 2 of these layers and then drag them until they fit with our beat drop right here. Now let me show you what the animation looks like so far. If we play ahead, you can see we have this nice newspaper effect with all of the text around the main word changing. And next, what we want to do is highlight the word in a bright color so it actually stands out a bit more. To do that, we're going to head to the top, click on layer, new, and then select solid. In here, make sure you choose the color that you want to use, which in my case is going to be a bright yellow like this, and then click onto OK. Now this should be covering our entire screen, and what we're going to do is go to the bottom and click on toggle switches/modes. Then select your solid layer at the very top, click onto the mode and select multiply. And because we only want the word psychopath to be marked, what we're going to do is head to the top, select the rectangle tool right here, and then draw a mask around the word so that it perfectly just highlights our word right here. Then obviously after the first beat drop, when our animation is supposed to end, we're also going to cut the solid layer. So press Ctrl Shift and D and delete everything that comes past here. And then right when it ends, we also want that to be a nice transition. So we're going to go back to layer, new, make a new solid again, and this time select the white color. Press onto OK and then OK. And we're going to zoom in and make this solid very, very short. So we want it to start 1 frame before our animation ends. Cut it right here by pressing Ctrl Shift and D, delete everything that comes before here. Then go 2 frames ahead, 1, 2, and cut it again by pressing Ctrl Shift and D and delete everything that comes past here. That way, when our animation ends, we're going to have a nice white transition. Our intro animation already looks pretty solid, but we're going to put some more effects on top to make it look cooler. For that, we're going to select the solid and all of the pictures together, right click, go to pre-compose, make sure the bottom option is selected and enable this check mark. Press onto OK, and now they should all be morphed into one layer. Then we're going to go to effects and presets and search for pixel motion blur. Drag it on top of the pre-composed layer right here. Then put the shutter angle from 180 down to 80 and the shutter samples from 5 up to 20. Next, search for BBC radial blur and also drag it on top of the pre-composition. And if you can't find this effect inside your After Effects, make sure to get it from the Discord server in the description. One thing that's very important is that you drag this red circle on top of your word like this. So the circle has to be in the middle of the word. Then go to the blur amount and put it from 25 down to 10. And lastly, search for CC vignette and drag it underneath of the BBC radial blur. Once we finish creating this animation, we're going to put it at all the points where we want it to happen. Select both of the layers and then press Ctrl and D to duplicate them. Now we have to drag them at the right position, which is why we marked the beat drops earlier. In between the first and second keyframe, we want there to be nothing. This is supposed to be a void. So we're going to drag it after the second keyframe is over. And if you did everything right, the third marker should exactly line up with the end of our clip. And what we now did is after the second beat marker, the same animation is going to play again. And now it's going to get a little bit more tricky because we also have to apply this animation to all of these short beat markers right here. This time we're only going to select the pre-composition and duplicate it again by pressing Ctrl and D. Then drag it until the 5th beat marker right here and cut it at the 6th beat marker. So we're going to go from 5 to 6 and cut it by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. Delete everything that comes past here and we only want this small separated section right here. Then we're going to duplicate this by pressing Ctrl and D. Again, leave 1 beat marker space and drag it until the 7. So we're supposed to have the animation here. Then our screen is going to turn black and we're going to have it again at the 7. We're going to repeat this. So duplicate this layer again by pressing Ctrl and D. Leave 1 space. So between 8 and 9, there's supposed to be nothing, and drag it until the 9. One last time, duplicate this layer as well and drag it for the last 2 beat drops right here. What should happen now is that we should have every second space filled with our newspaper animation and all of the other spaces should be black. And these spaces in between here, they are not going to stay black. We're going to replace them with clips. So now is the time where we need our scene pack. Go to the first beat drop right here, which is number 4. Then open up your project panel and drag the scene pack that we imported earlier onto your timeline. Make sure that it starts exactly at the 4th beat marker right here. Mine is a bit too big, so I'm going to press S on my keyboard and scale it down until it fits the size of my composition. And now double click onto the layer, which will bring up the separated view. And as you can see in the bottom, we have a mini separated timeline, which we can use to scatter throughout the whole scene pack. Because most likely your scene pack is not going to be 20 seconds long, rather like 30 to 60 minutes. This helps us find the clips a bit faster. And in my case, I want to use this clip at the end right here. So I'm going to go with my mini time indicator on the mini timeline until that point in time. And then click onto this bracket right here. What that will do is automatically cut our scene pack to that time and place where we have it selected. And now when we go to the top, click back onto our composition, you can see our scene pack starts from that point. And we want this clip to stop after the 5th beat marker and reveal our newspaper. So we're going to go here and then press Ctrl Shift and D to cut it. And we have to find clips for all of these spaces we left in between the newspaper animations. So you can see between 4 and 5, between 6 and 7, between 8 and 9, and between 10 and 11. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag our scene pack ahead to the next time marker, which is the number 6, where we have to fill the void, and then double click back onto it to find the next clip we want to use inside of here. Again, I scattered through my scene pack and I want to use this clip right here. So I'm going to click back onto this bracket, which will automatically cut it to that place and time. time, and I'm gonna go ahead to the 7th beat drop marker and cut it by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. This will isolate this clip again, and like I said, we have to do this for all of the spaces that we left in between of these newspaper animations. Once we found the clips we want to use in the middle, it should look like this, and what we have to do now is go to the beginning and then right click onto the clip, go to time and select freeze frame. What that will do is basically transform our clip into a picture so that it doesn't move. Then we're gonna go to effects and presets and search for BBC, brightness and contrast. Drag it on top of this clip and then also search for the black and white effect. Drag it underneath the BBC brightness and contrast effect, and inside of the settings put the brightness from 0 to 45 and the contrast we're gonna put up to 65. As you can see, that way we get this dark look. And now we're gonna select both of these effects, press Ctrl and C, then go to the next clip, right click, time and freeze the frame, and press Ctrl and V to paste the effects, and repeat this for all of the clips that you have here. Next, you might remember these white flashes that we created at the beginning. I also want them to be at the start and end of this little section that we just created. So I'm gonna select this, press Ctrl and D, and then drag it to fit with this beat drop right here. And the same thing I'm also gonna put towards the end. If you look at the intro now, it should already look way better. But obviously, right now, the transition to our editing part, where the edit is supposed to start, is still missing. So that's what we're gonna do next. One last time, we're gonna duplicate this layer right here, which has a newspaper animation, and then drag it onto the 13th time marker right here. Again, make sure you leave this as a space. And now to make the transition to our editing part, we're gonna have to find the clips we wanna use to edit. So again, drag your scene pack onto the timeline and align it with the 14th time marker right here. Adjust the size to your composition if you have to. And the process to finding your clips is gonna be pretty similar to before. Just double click onto your scene pack layer, and then just use this mini timeline to scatter ahead until you find the scene that you want to use in your edit, which in my case is going to be this exact one. So again, I'm going to click onto this bracket and it will automatically cut the scene to fit with my beat drop. Now, very important is that the first clip that we use for our edit has to actually cover 2 of the beat drops. So you can see it's going to cover all of this and then also between 15 and 16. So after 16, we want the next clip to play. This is only going to be the case for the first clip though. Every clip that follows will change per beat drop. So we're going to cut this clip after 2 beat drops by pressing Ctrl Shift and D, then redouble click onto this layer and scatter the scene pack until you find the next clip you want to use, which in my case is going to be this one. Click onto the bracket and it will automatically cut to your beat drop. Then we're going to go to the next beat drop right here and split this layer by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. Then redouble click onto this layer and continue this until you find all the clips that you want to use in your edit. Once that's done, your timeline should look like this, but one problem that you might be facing is that some of the clips are not in the center of the screen. For example, this one or this one, you cannot see the character. And we obviously want to see the character because we're not goofy CapCut editors. To fix that, just select the clip, for example, this one right here, press P on your keyboard and then adjust the position on the left until your character is fully visible. Do this for all of the clips which are currently not centered. Once that's done, we now have to make the transition between the newspaper and our actual editing part look way cooler. So zoom in on your very first clip and go to the start of it right here. Now we're going to move our time indicator just 1 frame to the right and cut this layer by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. Go back 1 to the left and then right click onto the small section that we cut out right here. You can see the small section of clip. We're going to right click, go to time and then select freeze frame. Like before, this will just turn this clip into a picture, which will make it easier to have it plop in. You can see the rest of the clip we're going to move until it fits with the next beat drop right here on the 15th. This one has to start, and whatever is overlapping with the next clip right here, we're just going to cut by pressing Ctrl Shift and D and then delete. Now let's go back to our short clip that we just cut out right here. We're going to extend this by hovering over the edge and then dragging it all the way to the right until it docks onto the next clip. And then we're going to pre-compose this layer by right clicking, pre-compose, selecting the bottom option, enabling this check mark and pressing on OK. By doing that, it will now be way easier to remove the background. And to remove the background, we're going to use a tool called Roto Brush, which is this little man with the brush next to it in your toolbar. After selecting it, double click onto the pre-composed layer. Now you should see it in a bigger window with this green circle, and this green circle we're going to use to draw over our character. So we only want the character to be selected, not the background, which means we're only going to draw over our character like this. And you can see that almost all of our character is selected, and everything that doesn't have a pink outline around will be removed. So you can see on the left side with his ear, for example, we want to make some adjustments. So we're also going to just draw over this area right here until it selects it. And if you accidentally select too much like this, what you can do is just hold down your Alt key and then your brush will turn red and you can go over the edges that you don't want to be selected. Make sure that you're very precise on these edges right here, so don't let them in. Make sure it only selects your character, nothing more. And once you did that, we're going to go to the bottom right here and click on freeze, which will just lock all of it in place. Our job here is done. When we now click back onto the main composition, our clip should have no background, which is what we want. And now to make it pop in, we're going to press P on our keyboard, right click onto the position right here, and then click onto separate dimensions. Go approximately 10 frames before the clip is supposed to transition right here, and then set a keyframe for the Y position. And now increase the Y position until our character is not visible anymore. He, she, it, they, them should be completely out of screen. And because we don't want this animation to look like goofy ass CapCut, we're going to change the graph. For that, select both of the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant and click on easy ease. Now open up the graph editor, And the graph we want to use here is the following. We just want to drag this handle a bit down towards this way, and then the other one at the bottom we're going to drag towards the left. This will just speed the animation a bit up. Now we can close the graph editor again, and now we want to customize the look of our character in this specific transition. And what I've been seeing a lot on TikTok combined with this animation is this red halftone effect. So let's make it. To start, please also make sure you enable motion blur for this layer. And the first thing I want to do is also make this clip black and white like the previous ones. So again, search for BBC brightness and contrast, drag it on top of this clip, and this time we're only going to change the brightness to 45. Then also search for the black and white effect and also drag it on top of the layer. Next, we're going to search for BBC halftone and also drag it on top of this layer. Now in here, I'm going to put the HT scale from 5 up to 10 so that our dots get a bit bigger. And lastly, we want to add some nice red color. So search for tint, drag it underneath the halftone effect and map the whites from being white to being red. And now once we finish the intro, we can finally get to editing the clips, which is also important because it's quite different to what you would do in a normal edit. Before we actually start, we want to make sure that for all of the clips, we disable the sound because we don't want some random yapping in the background of our edit. And then we want to enable the motion blur and frame blending by clicking this box twice. This will just make our edit look way smoother. And now we can start with our time remapping. What time remapping will do is give us this nice slow motion looping effect. And to use it, I'm going to zoom in a bit and then right click onto the first clip. In here, we want to select time and then enable time remapping. Very important, you have to do this before you pre-compose the clips, otherwise it won't work. Then we're going to go to the very first frame of this layer, which you can see is right here, and set a keyframe for the time remapping. Make sure you select this keyframe and copy it by pressing Ctrl and C. Then we're going to move our time indicator to approximately the middle, which should be right here of this clip, and then set a second keyframe. Don't change the value at all, just leave it how it is. And then we're going to go to the last frame of the layer right here, when you can already see the next clip, and paste the keyframe that we copied at the beginning by pressing Ctrl and V. Now we should have 3 keyframes in total on our clip, and because we don't want to look like goofy CapCut editors, we're going to have to change the graph a little bit. Select all of the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant and click on easy ease. Then open up the graph editor, and the graph we want to use in here is the following. We're going to start with the one on the left and drag this one up, not all the way up, but very close to the top like this. Then the one in the middle right here, we're going to extend towards the left, also not all the way, but approximately the middle. And then we're going to copy these same settings for the other side as well. So start with the one at the bottom, drag it up almost all the way. And then for this one at the top, we're going to extend it until it's in the middle. And what's very important is that you have to make this animation for each clip individually. So you cannot copy these keyframes and paste them onto the next one. That won't work. So make sure you go to the next clip, right click again, go to time, select enable time remapping, move your time indicator to the first frame, set a keyframe for the time remapping, go to approximately the center of the clip, set another keyframe, then copy the keyframe we set at the beginning by selecting it, pressing Ctrl and C, and then paste this one at the end and copy the same graph for this animation that we just applied to the first clip. Like I said, don't try to copy these keyframes, it won't work, and apply this animation to all of the other clips while making sure you roughly keep the same graph. And now that we applied this looping animation to all of the clips, like you can see, they play and then rewind. The next step is going to be adding our zooms. And with our zooms to fit in with the time remapping, we want them to zoom in and then zoom out again in the same clip. So start by now pre-composing all of the clips. Just right click, go to pre-compose, select the bottom option and enable this check mark, and do this for all of the clips instead of your editing part. And now once that's done, it should look something like this, and we can move to the first clip after our nice popping in animation, which is this one. And then we're going to search for the S_blur more curves effect. This one right here, and drag it onto this first clip. Now I'm going to zoom in a bit like this. And again, I'm going to move my time indicator to the first frame of this clip, as you can see right here. Then inside of the settings, I'm going to set a keyframe for the Z distance, and we're not going to change this at all. What we're going to do is we're going to press U. As you can see, we now have this first keyframe, and then we're going to go to the end of this clip right here and set another keyframe for the Z distance. Again, don't change this. They both have to stay at the same value, which is 1. And the way we're now going to add the zoom in and zooming out animation is by selecting both of them, right clicking, going to keyframe assistant, easy easing, and then opening up the graph editor. As you can see, because we didn't change the value at all, our graph just looks flat. And because I'm not a big fan of flat things, we're going to change this. What we want to do is select the graph, and then you can see the both handles lay flat, and the one on the left we're going to drag downwards like this, and the same thing we're going to do on the right side as well, like this. As you can see, the further we go down with these handles, the more our clip is going to zoom in, and because we don't want too much zoom, we're going to move this a little bit back up until it's about this much, and the same thing for the other side as well. And we roughly want this graph to look like me after watching a Madison Beer edit, so something like this. And now what will happen inside of our clip, you can see it will start zooming in, and then towards the end of our clip it will zoom out again, which looks really nice combined with our time remapping. Luckily this time we can use these keyframes on all of our clips, so close the graph editor, select both of the keyframes right here, and press Ctrl and C to copy them. Then make sure your time indicators at the beginning of the next clip, and press Ctrl and V to paste them. Press U, and if your keyframes don't match up with the end of your clip, just make sure both of them are selected. Hold down your Alt key and then drag the keyframe until it fits with the end of your clip right here. And now you're going to have the same zooming animation on this clip as well. Make sure you apply the same zoom to all of the clips. If you want to, you can also use a combination between zoom ins and zoom outs. For that, just make sure that you move the graph in the different direction. So instead of dragging it down, you should drag it up. Once that's done, we're going to get to the most important part of the edit, which is going to be adding a good color correction. As you can see, for this edit, I'm going to use my brand new clean color correction, which makes it look amazing. And if you don't want to get my exact presets that I use to make my edits look the best as possible, make sure to check the first link in the description, because I'm still currently running a huge opportunity in my shop. Celebrating Easter and the release of my new text pack, you can get 70% off plus an extra 10% by using the code TEXT10 on all orders. Limited time offer. And once you applied your high quality color correction, also make sure to enable motion blur for all of these layers. Now what we have to do, because we want this editing part to play twice after the first set of beat drops end, is select all of the clips in our editing part, but very important, make sure you don't include the one where our character is popping in. That one we don't want. We only want all of the normal clips that we just applied all of our effects onto. Make sure you select all of them, then right click, go to pre-compose, select the bottom option, enable this check mark and press onto OK. Now as you can see, our timeline looks a bit cleaner, and we can now duplicate this long layer which has all of our clips inside by pressing Ctrl and D, and then just drag it to the end of the first layer so that once that one ends, it just replays. Very important, make sure it actually lines up frame on frame so that there's no black screen in between your editing parts. Now I'm also going to add my 4K outro to the end of this edit. If you want to know how to create that yourself, make sure you watch the video in the top right corner. Once that's done, I'm going to adjust the work area to the end of my edit. So I'm going to go to the very end here, then press N on my keyboard. And now to get this edit out of After Effects, we're going to head to the top, click on composition, and then add to render queue. In here, it's very important to choose the right settings so you don't look like you edit on goofy ass CapCut. So click onto the output module, and instead of H.264, make sure you select QuickTime. Click onto OK, then give your edit a name, and lastly click on render. Congratulations, you now know exactly how to make this edit. Keep in mind to stay creative and combine it with your own effects. I personally think it would probably look pretty cool to combine this effect with a shake as well. If you want to learn how to make good shakes, watch this tutorial right here. Let me know in the comments which tutorial you want to see next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.